What's up guys, this is Pash. In the two previous videos I made them about offers. One being the 12 reasons why the highest offers don't get accepted, and another video of ways that you can do to make sure your offer gets accepted. Provide tips for both of those videos. If you didn't watch those videos, I highly recommend you watch those videos. Today I want to make another video pretty much about real estate contingencies, why contingencies are important, why you should have contingencies in your real estate contracts, and the 6 elements that are in real estate contingencies. Hopefully after this video, you'll understand contingencies a lot more and you'll be much more ready to make that offer. If you're ready, let's get started. The first thing I want to talk about is what is a real estate contingency? A real estate contingency refers to a clause in the purchase agreement, and it specifies the actions or requirements that must be made in order for the contract to be legally binding. Both the buyers and sellers had to agree to the terms and sign the contract before the contract can actually be legally binding. So it's important to know. A real estate contingency provides some wiggle room for both the buyers and sellers. So if something goes wrong, they both have the right to cancel it based off the conditions of the contingency. So it gives them both opportunities to escape the contract if one of them deems that the contract is not sufficient and there's something that goes wrong. Now I want to talk about the 6 common contingencies, the first one being mortgage contingency. Mortgage contingency specifies a window of time in which the buyer must obtain financing before the deadline. If the buyer is not able to obtain financing before the deadline, they have the ability to withdraw from the contract, and then the seller can put the property back onto the market. The second common contingency will be title contingency. This provides the purchaser the right to obtain a title search and raise any objections that they may have based off the title search. And if the status of the title is not cleared by the seller, they have the right to get out of that contract. So it's important to know that if there's some issues that comes down on the line, and you're in that process and you're close to buying that property and there's some title issues, you have the right to get out of that contract. So just understand the importance of a title contingency. So that way, if there is some issues when it comes to title, you know how to get out of that. Now, the third most common contingency will be inspection contingency. This provides the buyer the ability to have an inspection and gives them a certain window. And what the inspector does is that they'll look for any faulty leaks of the roof, they'll look for any faulty electricals, they'll look for any structural issues. They'll be able to look for any type of issues that are within the property. So it gives the buyer the opportunity to have a preview of what the property is going to look like from when they buy it, and they have the choice to either get into the property or not get into the property by the deadline. So it's just important to know inspection contingencies play a very big important role, and you have to figure out if that's something that you want to have on your offer or you don't want to have on your offer. Now, the fourth most common contingency will be the sale of the prior home contingency. What this does is it protects the buyers who needs the proceeds of the sale of their first home in order to buy the second home. What this does is it protects the buyers who, if they're not able to sell their home prior to the deadline, they have the right to get out of that contract. So it just protects the buyers who need the cash from the sale of their first home in order to buy the second home. So it's just something important to know. If you're one of those buyers who need that sale of that first home, you probably want to have the sale of prior home contingency in your offer just to make sure you protect yourself in case you're not able to sell that home and buy that new home that you want. The fifth most common contingency will be appraisal contingency. What this does is it provides a safeguard for buyers to be able to get out of the contract if the property doesn't appraise at the minimum. Banks don't like to give out loans for properties that actually cost more than what they are, because at the end of the day, banks are also trying to make money, and they want to make sure in case things go wrong with the buyer owning that property, they can have the property and sell it and still be able to get the property for what they actually are. So they want to make sure it actually appraises for what it is. It's important to note for the buyer that if you make an offer and the offer is signed by both the buyer and seller and you don't have an appraisal contingency on that offer, you will legally binding. So you still have to make the difference of that, and you may not have the funds to be able to make the difference of it. So it's important to understand if you need the appraisal contingency or not, but I highly recommend you have an appraisal contingency just to protect yourself. The sixth most common contingency would be homeowners insurance contingency. This contingency is a clause that stipulates that the buyer must apply and obtain homeowners insurance for the property. If the buyer is not able to obtain homeowners insurance, the buyer or the seller can get out of that contract. It's important to understand that both can be requested. So if the buyer wants to request a homeowners insurance contingency, they can. If the seller wants to request a homeowners insurance contingency, they also can. It's important to note that contingencies are directly tied to earnest money deposits. If contingencies are not met, the earnest money deposits are forfeited back to the buyer. It's important to note that you want to make sure that you have contingencies in place to protect yourself and to make sure you get that earnest money deposit sent to you. The last thing I want to note is be cautious what market you're in. Are you in a buyer's market? Or are you in a seller's market? It's important to understand what market you're in, especially when it comes to contingencies. Because if you're in a seller's market and you're making an offer with cluttered full of contingencies and you're going against other people who are making offers with no contingencies, the seller is going to look at them much more favorable than they're going to look at you. So it's important to understand what market you're in, how many contingencies is the right contingencies, which one is the right one for you, and understand exactly what market you're in, just to make sure you understand. Contingencies do play an important role, but you also don't want to hurt your chances of buying that dream home, depending on the market that you're in. So it's just important to understand, do your research. Thanks for listening. Hope this video gave you a better understanding on contingencies. You understand what a contingency is, the 6 most common contingencies. You understand the strengths and weaknesses of contingencies. It's important to note that contingencies play a very important role for legal protection, but they can also serve as a double-edged sword depending on the market you're in. So make sure you research the market. Make sure you understand the market that you're in. Make sure you understand who your potential competition is when it comes to other buyers. You understand, okay, this is the offer that I should be making in order to make this a competitive offer that would increase my chances of getting my offer accepted. So just make sure that you do your research, understand the market, and understand the financial contingencies that are in place that works for you. Because it's important to note that appraisal contingency, the finance contingency, and also the home inspection contingencies, I highly recommend that you always have those on your offer, just to make sure that things is right, because you want to protect yourself in case things don't go right, you be able to get out of that contract. So it's just important to know. If you didn't watch the other 2 videos on offers, how to get your offer accepted, or why the highest offers don't get accepted, I highly recommend you watch those. Very valuable information. If you're able to watch those 2 videos and then you watch this video, you'll learn a lot more about offers and contingencies, and you'll be ready to make that offer on that dream home of yours. And if that's all, stay tuned for the next video. Peace.